Okay. All right.
What were you
So,
saying about it going too smoothly?
yeah,
Right, it's working now. There you go.
this is the first one we've done for a while.
Yeah, it is. There you go.
So this is going to be a joint one. Emily and I both covering different things. So basically, what we've got today is a fieldwork update. So an update on what we've been doing this year, fieldwork wise, in the forest. A bit of an update as to what we're going to be doing next year, and a little bit about the young explorers and some other bits and pieces. So it's sort of a general mishmash of stuff. So we'll jump into sorry, carry on. Um, yeah, I'll talk about hawfinches.
Yeah,
So
obviously.
yeah, field work. So first of all, Hawfinch. Hawfinches. So this year's been a funny year for Hawfinch. So we've been doing the main three things that we do with Hawfinch. We do what is the bird ringing, the constant effort ringing. It's called an RAS, which is ringing adults for survival. We've been doing that at Boulderwood since 2015, I think. And also it'll be 10 years next year. But it's probably one of our worst years this year. So we struggled to catch that many birds. I think we caught maybe about 40 or 50 hawfinches,
Yeah.
whereas normally we'll catch between 80 and 100 hawfinches. So it's considerably down. And we were planning to deploy some GPS tags on juvenile hawfinches because that's the big data gap we've got at the moment is where juvenile hawfinches go. Um, we have no data on that from anywhere in the country, and so that's what we were planning to do. And we did have juvenile hawfinches down that we could catch, but because this year was an odd year and things weren't behaving normally, we decided not to because we want to if we're going to tag the juveniles, each tag's expensive. That's 350 quid.
Mm.
And so we want to make sure it counts when we do it. So we took the decision to carry over to 2025 when hopefully we'll have a bit more of a normal year. Um, and yeah, so the data that'll be a bit more solid. And so that's the ringing. The wrist monitoring up in the top right corner of the screen there is carrying on, and that's sort of just plodding along. Really, we've got 50 communal wrists in the New Forest that we're monitoring. It is too many now to monitor them all every year. So we're monitoring a small core number of wrists regularly, and then just checking on the other ones, spot checking them really. And nest finding. So yeah, nest finding again was hard this year. So we only found I think one or two because it was just a rubbish year for hawfinches, a rubbish nesting year. So it's the weather we think had a huge impact on their breeding season. A lot of them just seemed to give up. And a lot of the birds we caught while we were ringing were horrendously underweight. So normally a hawfinch would weigh about 60 grams. A lot of the ones we were catching this year were between 45 and 50 grams, and so they're hugely underweight and not in a fit condition to breed. And so this year has just been a bit of a write-off for hawfinches. And then this winter is even worse. So this winter there's no natural food for them in the forest. There's no seed crop. There's a really poor berry crop. So as a result, a lot of the hawfinch just aren't in the forest this winter. They've been driven out, looking out into the wider countryside for food, and so those roosts that we're monitoring are way down in number. There's a slight temptation to put some bait out because the birds are hungry. It might have provided an opportunity to catch some, but
Why is
I
that?
mean, huh?
Why are the berries and things? Why is there less?
It's a cycle. It's cyclical mainly. So last year was a really good year. So last season was an excellent year for holly and for beech and a lot of our beech oak and deciduous trees. And so it tends to follow that when you have a really good season, that the trees are pretty much exhausted for the following season, and so it follows that we have a really poor crop. So we anticipated that this season would be bad. There's other factors as well, such as the weather. The weather shouldn't have been such a huge influence this year. It's just mainly part of the cycle. And so, as an example, like a beech tree has a cycle of about 7 years. So, one in every 7 years, it has a really good crop. One in every 7 years, it has a really bad crop. and then those years in between are in between. And so it is unfortunate this year that these cycles all coincided, and our berry trees like the holly had a bad year, as did yeah, beech and oak and hornbeam and all of them. And it's not just in the New Forest; it's across the whole of the UK. It's an issue. Um, some species have had a good year. Rowan's had a good year this year, but an awful lot more haven't had a good year. So a lot of the berry trees are having a poor year. So that has an impact, and that we focus on hawfinches because that's what we're looking at, but it'll impact everything. So redwings won't stay around for very long. I wouldn't have thought they'll move on. If by chance waxwings were to come to the UK, I don't think they'd hang around here for very long because there's just no food for them. And stuff like bramblings and these sort of eruption species, they won't be showing their faces very much this winter. So that's generally the reason why. So that's Hawfinch. We always think it's best to get Hawfinch over and done with because I talk way too much about Hawfinches, and so that's Hawfinch. We can take. I tell you what, we can take questions at the end. But if
Yeah.
anybody has any questions as we're going, just shout. And
Yeah, we're
just,
happy
just
to.
do you want to do Pine Martin?
No, that's right. You carry on. I'll do the videos.
Okay, all right.
Well,
So,
we'll just do it together, can't we?
well, yeah. I mean, chip in if I don't say anything on Pine Martin because so Pine Martin has been a proper sort of joint effort this year. We've had two surveys, and we'll talk about both of them. So the first one is a continuation of the survey we've been doing with Forestry England and monitoring Pine Marten in the central New Forest. But this year, rather than just recording them and tracking them, or not tracking them, but recording their locations, we've been trying to get DNA from hair samples. And so to do that, we've put out tubes. Um, I'm getting ahead of myself. So to do that, what we did, first of all, we investigated the best areas in the forest. So we highlighted half a dozen places that are really good for pine marten that we got a lot of records from historically, and we targeted those. But we wanted them to be widespread around the forest. And so we picked 6 locations that were good. And then early in the year, we put trail cameras out in those locations in areas where we've recorded them before, just to check we're still getting pine martens in those areas. Once we confirmed the pine martens are still using those areas, we started tactically sort of putting out tubes. So the tubes are just literally, as it says on the tin, just tubes, plumbing tubes that the pine martens move through. But you'll see some of the tubes in the video clips we've got coming. And uh, we've tried all sorts. So this is kind of new. So this is stuff that people have done before, but we've not done it in the New Forest, and it's only been done a couple of times in the UK. And so there's a lot of trial and error this year.
First of all, we decided to put sticky mouse pads in there to try and collect, obviously, because we want hair samples. We tried that first of all, but because obviously we can't check them every single day, when we did go back to check them, there was just detritus and leaves and unfortunately little dead bugs and all sorts in it. So we decided straight away against that. Then we decided Velcro on it to try and, 'cause that's what they were doing up in Scotland.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Velcro was seemed to be the best way forward. Well, for our conscience more than anything.
Yeah.
Also, because the sticky pads were getting covered in detritus, they wouldn't be effective if pine marten happened
No.
to move through. But the sticky pads are the recommended way to do it.
As I said, there was just too many dead bugs and all sorts.
Yeah.
So,
And we didn't want to catch a mouse either.
no.
Yeah, so we switched to Velcro, but of course you need the pine martens to go in the tubes, and so pine martens are naturally curious, but they were wary of the tubes. We've looked in it in quite a lot of detail. One of my concerns was the tubes; they're plastic tubes, and they're weatherproofed, and the chemicals used in that weatherproofing, I think, give off a bit of a smell. You've got to give them a good sniff to detect the smell, but I think a pine marten would smell that.
Watching the video footage of the pine martens,
Yeah.
they were sniffing the tubes. So then what we tried to do is we thought, right, we'll try and disguise the smell of it by putting loads of moss and rolling it in the mud and all of that, but that didn't
Yeah.
seem to work.
So there's been an awful lot of trial and error, and then bait was the other thing. So baits just didn't they just didn't react to bait. So I said when we talked about the Hawfinches, we said that this year, oh sorry, last year was a really good beech mast crop. So the beech mast crop last autumn was fantastic across the forest, not just beech mast, but sweet chestnut and oak as well. And when we have such a good crop like that, we have a bumper year for bank voles. So
Mm.
this year has been an absolutely phenomenal year for bank voles in the New Forest and wood mice, but particularly bank voles. And that's Pine Martin's one of Pine Martin's favourite food. And so there's an abundance of natural food for Pine Martins in the forest this year, and therefore our artificial food that we're putting out, like eggs, we've tried everything: eggs, honey, chicken, pork,
We've tried putting seeds and nuts in peanut butter.
yeah, all sorts of things. But they've just not shown any interest in it whatsoever. And so we keep on going back to the drawing board. Oh, eggs is the other thing. So elsewhere in the region, Pine Martins go nuts for eggs. And so we
Mm.
tried quail, hen, duck eggs, both shop brought and farm. So I was worried about the shop bought ones having some sort of uh, chemical smell from when they're being cleaned. So then we got them straight from the farm, but still, even then, they just weren't that interested at all.
We ended
And
up having dogs stealing them.
yeah, yeah, dogs. And oh, and fish was the other thing. We tried fish, rotten fish, which some person randomly in Scotland found out their pine marten goes mad for. So we tried that, but that attracted dogs. And
And
and,
foxes.
and foxes, yeah, the more smelly stuff attracts foxes. And so when you start attracting foxes, then that's going to deter the pine martens. So it's a real minefield. So anyway, we tried. We had a lot of pine marten records, but we didn't collect any hares. We've got plans for next year. I mean, we're thinking that maybe next year we'll try and get some honey, not honey, but a honeycomb. So we want to reach out to a pest control person who's removing wasp and bee nests to see if we can get any of their honeycomb because pine martens do go nuts for honeycomb. And then
Just wondering,
maybe yeah,
um, to deal with the issue of dogs and foxes and things getting to the bait. I don't know how many there are around the forest, but would you be able to put the bait on things like shooting towers and raised platforms like that? Or would that just be a nightmare to get the cameras on?
yeah,
Yeah, it's a health and safety nightmare as well.
yeah. And we did try putting some just vertically on
Yeah.
tree fronts, but it's really what we need to do is place the tubes on runs where pine martens are regularly visiting.
Okay.
Because the pine marten sense of smell is good, but not all that good. And so we've tested that with there's a chap in the New Forest called Martin Noble, and he's got a pine marten, he's got a captive pine marten. But it's a wild, very wild. It's not tame in any way. And so we've been trying with his pine marten by hiding food in its den, and it can't find the food that we hide in its den. It only finds it by sight, and it can smell it when it gets close. It has to be quite close to detect. So it seems that the pine marten's sense of smell isn't that good at range. So
Okay.
um, yeah, but anyway, there's a lot of trial and error, and so and the other thing I'm just thinking, maybe next year we'll try with some sort of wooden
Yeah.
construction of tube or box or
The good
something.
thing
But
that's come out of this year, though, is because, like you said, we've got loads of Pine Marten footage, and in the middle, bottom middle, you can see we've been calling that our bibliography
yeah.
of our bib patterns to help us ID individuals. So that is one.
You could just say that one in the middle at the bottom that's a collage taken in 2021. We went back to that area. That area where that pine marten was one of the areas we checked this year, and from the bid pattern we could confirm that that same pine marten is in the same area
Yeah.
this year. So that's quite a nice record. So we've got some good data, but just not the data that we want, really.
Oh,
Yeah.
Uh, just a little bit of a trigger warning, just in case anyone's squeamish or fear of blood or fear of dead things or anything along those lines. The next slide, it's only one slide though, is the autopsy we've done on the Pine Marten. So just a bit of a warning that we will be going to the next slide now, and I don't want anyone to be upset. So you might want to maybe look away if you've got a bit of a trigger warning. So yeah,
So yeah.
this is a roadkill. We obviously didn't kill it. um, yeah. So we will. The good thing about obviously the roadkill is we can obviously get some muscle DNA from this and also some hair DNA. So there is a positive coming out of the roadkill.
That's right. And normally we can check how healthy it is and its stomach contents and so on. But sadly with this one, its stomach was,
Mhm.
yeah, kind of seemed to be eviscerated by in the accident. But there's two types of DNA. So from the hair we can get mitochondrial DNA, and from the tissue we can get nuclear DNA. So there's two different types of DNA. And I should have said the reason why we want the DNA is
What I'll do is I'll just quickly go on to the next slide just in case there's anyone wanting to listen.
okay, yeah. Why we wanted the DNA is there's multiple reasons, but mainly to look at the genetic diversity of the population of pine martens that we have, just to see how healthy the gene pool is,
Yeah.
essentially. Also to help us understand, if we can get a method that's reliable in collecting samples, and that will help us determine the population size by identifying individuals from their DNA. And it'll help us look at movements and also their origins and all sorts of bits of information we can get from the DNA. So it's just useful. It's like the next step on from visual ID, really.
Mhm.
Have you
The
yet
network.
had have you yet had
Uh,
any individuals from the post-mortems that you've been able to recognize by the bib from your cameras?
Yeah,
Yeah.
this one. Yeah, sadly. So this year we had, I think it was four road kills we had this year.
Yeah.
And so it was one female, two males, and a youngster, I think, if I remember right.
Youngster, we
No,
couldn't sex the youngster.
no, that's right.
Yeah.
Um, but the female was one that we recorded last year. So she was killed on the A337 between Lyndhurst and Cadnam, and we recorded her last year, funny enough, commuting across that road. So she had a territory in Shave Green, which is at Cadnam, but she moved along a streamway that crossed that road and went up towards Lyndhurst. So she had quite a big area we were recording her across. And sadly, it was exactly at the crossing point that
Yeah.
with what would be the obvious crossing point that she would use. She was hit by a car this year. So yeah, I'm actually quite gutted about that because we recorded her quite a lot.
Yeah.
And she had a very distinctive bid pattern, but the others we didn't recognise. Um, but yes, so we haven't got the DNA results from those yet. They've been sent off, so that the DNA for those has gone to Edinburgh. The hair samples from those is probably going in the post tomorrow to Aberystwyth for DNA. But because we're trying to do it on a budget, um, they basically just try and slip it in when they've got a spare moment rather than yeah.
Just trying to save a bit of money.
Yeah. So anyway, do you want to go through the network?
Yeah, Network Rail, they got hold of us beginning of the year. No, yeah, 2023 to ask, obviously, because they heard that we were doing the Pine Marten survey. So got hold of us to ask if we could uh, have a look at the crossing points. So to see if any mammals or, well, mainly they obviously wanted to see if Pine Marten were crossing, but any other mammals. So we set up 8 cameras on the crossing points just to see what was crossing there, how it was crossing there, and why it was crossing there.
Yeah, basically. And we also we walked the railway ultimately and looked for any other potential crossing points, but there were very few, and we don't know obvious signs of mammals crossing.
All we really got crossing the main points was people, deer, squirrels, foxes,
Couple of rabbits.
a couple of rabbits, and a couple of badgers actually as well.
Yeah, but it's surprising how little mammal movement there was across these crossing points. And these are these are, yeah, anybody really doesn't know the area. These are quite established crossing points. They're not roads. They are trackways that cross over the railway, and so they're sort of like a good sort of conduit for animals to move across. And we have a population of pine marten both sides of the railway line, and so the Network Rail were interested if there's a risk that pine marten could cross the railway. So it's thought that pine martens in our region wouldn't successfully make a crossing of the railway over the tracks because of the third rail, because of the way they move. It's thought that their tail most likely would touch the third rail and they get electrocuted. That's what badgers do. So badgers generally don't make it across either. But Network Rail, in a cost-cutting exercise, stopped recording. They used to record all electrocutions and all train strikes of mammals and birds, but they don't anymore. They haven't recorded them for 20 years, so we don't know. We don't know if any train drivers have reported anything. Interestingly, just as an aside, a friend of mine was a train driver in our region. He's moved away now. He drove freight trains, and he kept a list of everything he hit, and he had a really impressive list of
Oh, yeah.
stuff that he hit, including a purple heron he hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, again, distracted. So we checked the crossing points. The long story cut short is there were no records, and ideally, in a perfect world, we would have checked horizontally along the railway line as well, along the embankments. But we were not allowed to do that because of the health and safety, and so we had to do the best we could do, which is just the crossing points. It was that was hard work because from our point of view because we had to change the cameras once a week. So once a week from April until we packed up in October, we had to go round to every camera, change the cards, and look at the footage. But it generated a hell of a lot of footage because there's a lot of human
You
traffic.
need between 8 to 950 clips per camera.
Yeah,
So
per
that was
camera
my
per
job.
time.
That was my job to sit there and click for every single one.
And we had one camera stolen as well.
We did have a camera stolen as well,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
So there you go. So that's that.
Due to Jamie, to
Yeah, yeah.
blame Jamie. Oh, wrong way. So this is just a few of the clips that we've. This one was 2023, but the rest of them, I just like this clip. The rest of them are actually.
I think actually the date's wrong on this. I think it's got the year wrong because it's got camouflage on
Oh yeah,
the date. So
yeah, because it was in my 2024 folder.
yeah,
That's why I got a bit kerfuffled on that
I
one.
think the date's wrong.
Here he is.
Yeah, you see it says camera one, so something's happened to that.
Yeah. This one I like to put in because I think this is quite a good clip, this one, because it shows you a lot of how they move and
Yeah.
how feline they are, and the scent marking. Oh, and this one I had to put in because it's not very often that we get a daytime clip. So when we do, I love it because you can actually see how dark they actually are and how yellow they're. I'll play that again. Don't let me. Don't give me technology. You can actually see how yellow their bib pattern actually is. So looking at the nighttime footage, the bib looks really, really pale white, but as I said, during the day, it's actually not. And this clip I had to put in because this is one of Marcus's favourites.
So that's the tube there that you can see.
And then he gets smacked in the head by an owl. I'll play that one again because it's quite quick as he goes to get smacked in the head. You can actually hear the slap.
Hear it, yeah.
The poor Pine Marten was having a little sniff of the tube. And that was the first time we actually had a Pine Marten sniff that tube, and an owl went and smacked him up.
Yeah. And then you did it again the following week.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly the same place. And another little daytime clip. Not very.
That looks like a youngster to me, that one. But yeah, 21st of June. It's possible
Yeah,
it could be. Yeah. But it's not just not clear enough to be confident. Although it has a snip of the camera. But it's just not clear enough to be confident that it is a youngster. But it's got the movement and the gait and
yeah.
the way that youngsters move. Um, so
You start to get a sort of idea of male, female, and youngster the more clips you kind of
yeah,
want. And another one of Marcus's favourites.
yeah, this is polecat. So we don't record many polecats, but this is
Kind of a cute little polecat.
and we do. I mean, we record a few, but
How it doesn't fall off, I don't know.
normally they're just running past the camera, aren't they?
Mhm.
But that's the sort of yeah, that's nice. I could watch that one all day long.
It's a nice little play.
Yeah.
And obviously you can't have a talk without a buzzard in it, just because.
We did get quite a few goshawk clips as well, but they're on my computer, not on Emily's. Yeah, that's very nice and that's that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great spotted woodpecker.
Yeah.
And a little peck around.
We record quite a lot of birds. Great spots, grey wagtails, kingfishers.
Obviously, we do get a lot of footage that is just squirrel, 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 person, squirrel.
Yeah,
That we don't keep, but we do keep, especially ones like this.
this is another one of my favourites.
Whee!
So that state we saw quite a lot. And every day he came along here and he seemed
Yeah.
surprised to see the tube.
I think we've got about 14, 15 clips of him.
Yeah.
Then just because, oh, let's not do it again. Poor badger. Obviously, couldn't see the tube there. And off he goes. And just because we've had quite a few cats lately, we've recorded.
Yeah. It's funny, because up until this year we haven't really recorded. We've recorded one cat, I think, in
Yeah,
previous years, but then this year we've recorded quite a few.
I think about 5 cats now.
Yeah.
There we go. And then the New Forest ringing group.
Let's talk about
Yeah, that's your.
Yeah, so we've got the New Forest ringing group, which is active across the forest. Now, a big part of our fieldwork is ringing orientated. So, of course, the Hawfinch is all about ringing. But it's not just restricted to that. We do quite a bit of other types of ringing. So, there's most of the ringing team in the pictures here, doing various things. And believe it or not, those Tara, Emily, and Emily there.
Should get my name. Yes. That was turn ringing.
That was turn ringing. Yeah, that wasn't just going for a paddle in the sea. Yeah. Oh, there's Amy with a sparrowhawk.
Yeah, there's a sparrowhawk. Yeah, there's Jamie with a sparrowhawk. So
Oh, yeah.
you can tell I did this talk, can't you? Now Marcus is realising.
Yeah.
Go back. It's you with it, Simon.
Oh, yeah. I didn't know. Oh, okay. Right. Anyway, so yeah, we do a few different types of things with ringing. So the first is a CES, the Constant Effort Survey. So we do that at Keyhaven, and that's a BTO survey, and so basically that involves from April through to end of September or end of August. I can't remember. I think end of September.
End of September.
I think. Once in every 10-day period, we have to go out and set the nets. And so we have to go and set the same nets in the same place for the same amount of time. We do 4 hours from dawn. We're not allowed to use any tapes or anything. So there's no the situation is the same each session, and then we basically catch what happens to blunder into the nets. But over a long period of time, so over a number of years, we've been doing that since 2016. So we've got 8 years of data now, but over a long period of time, that helps build up trends on particularly what we're looking at. It's just the common breeding birds. And so, it's always nice to get the red star or, flycatcher or whatever. But really, it's the tits, it's the chaffinches, it's the common warblers, the white throats and whatnot, that generates a lot of useful data and gives us a good picture of what's going on. There's some good examples there. There's sort of like some white throats. There's one particular white throat that we've caught every year, multiple times every year. It keeps on. Thought it had wised up to where the net is by now. Even here, it's just 2016, so it's like an 8-year-old.
There's a
White
wren
throat.
the other day, wasn't there?
Yeah, a wren that was. Yeah, I can't
I
remember.
can't remember.
That's
Yeah,
quite a few years old. And so yeah, it's and that's the two. But we've got a whole cast of characters that become regulars. But what is interesting is the juveniles. So it's the fluctuations in the numbers of juveniles we catch from year to year. And so that helps us build a trend. And, it's not just us doing that. So the CES is done by, I think there's over 100 now CES sites across the UK. And so it's from all the different points where the CES has been done. That's where the data set comes from that informs productivity of the year. So CES is really quite an important tool for getting data on what's going on. And we're not just ringing and checking the birds; we're also checking their weight, their fat, and their muscle, their various biometrics, which also tells us how healthy the population is. So that's one. And then another is tern ringing. So we do quite a bit of tern ringing on the colony at the coast. So we've got little tern, common tern, and sandwich tern nesting at Lymington Key Haven. And so we're colouring all of those. Plus, while we're out there, we're colouring the gulls as well. So we're colouring black-headed gulls, Mediterranean gulls. And then, yeah, we get some fantastic data. But the terns are in particular, they're a particular project that we're doing with RSPB. And that's a project looking at three main things: breeding site fidelity, migration routes, and longevity. And so this little graph here on the right is sandwich terns. So this year we ringed, I think, just short of 100 sandwich tern chicks, and we've had now an insane number of records. I think over half of them have been
Yeah.
recited already. And so these arrows are all where juvenile sandwich tern chicks moved to. So everywhere from Lincolnshire around Norfolk, Sussex, Devon, Cornwall, all the way up to Powys, up in North Wales. So yeah, and now we're getting records we've got now 2 or 3 records from France. We had one recently from Spain, and so they're clearly moving further south. And so this is one of the colour rings sandwich terns. This one was one in France, funny enough. That's that one, and the arrow at the bottom of this bird in the photo. So it's not my photograph. That's the person who spotted it. So yeah, we're getting some great records. I'm from the Isles of Scilly as well, which is a nice one. And so, but we're doing that for the 3 tern species, and then potentially next year looking at avocet and ringed plover as well to do colouring and projects on. But that's
We would have ringed a lot more terns this year, but we
yeah,
couldn't because of the roseate tern.
that's right. The roseate terns stopped us. We still got a few sarnies, but we
Yeah,
didn't do so many common and little terns because we didn't want to cause
just
any
over.
disturbance to the roseate terns. So we did have permission to. We were going to ring the roseate terns, funny enough. And it was a really touch and go right up until the day we decided not to.
The disturbance would have been too much.
But we were being heavily pushed by the BTO to ring them. They wanted us to ring them, but no, we didn't.
All of this bird ringing, that's the thing, isn't it?
Yeah,
Because-
birds come first,
yeah.
and so if there's any doubt, then we don't do it. So this is quite dazzling.
Oh, it's dazzling.
Yeah. This I'm going to try not to swear. Because this is driving us nuts at the moment. There's a lot
Yeah.
of trial and error with dazzling. It's a relatively new thing for us. So we're going out with a thermal and catching woodcock, snipe, and jack snipe to look at a whole mix of things. So it's part of a wider project in the New Forest. We're covering the southern half of the New Forest. There's somebody else covering the north. So we're just doing a bit part on that. But at the same time, we're doing the Lymington Key Haven marshes as well. Because these are all nocturnal birds, and we've got a good feel for where snipe in particular are roosting, their daytime roosts. We don't have that much good data on where they're feeding overnight, and so it's to get a feel for their favourite feeding sites. So this is again a bit like the CES. It's something that builds up over a long period of time. So we can go out and record snipe in all sorts of places, but over time we'll get a feel for the actual important places, the favourite places, and that will help lead towards the protection of those sites um, from any adverse management that might impact the snipe and jack snipe. The woodcock really is, we enjoy ringing woodcock, and that's lending a hand to another study that's going on. And so we're just doing a bit of ringing for another group, really.
Yeah, and other surveys.
Oh, yeah, another survey. So we do other bits and pieces. So we do the breeding bird survey, which is a BTO survey. We do the web survey at the coast. So recently, Jamie has been doing
I
a
was
lot of
literally about to say that.
yeah,
I was literally about to say Jamie has been a massive help with the web survey,
yeah.
which we really appreciate.
So that's there are two things. Breeding bird surveys, as it says on the tin, that's following a, a route year in, year out, following the same route, recording all the birds. The wetland bird survey involves going monthly to the coast and recording all the wetland birds that are on site. Now, these two surveys, you don't need a ringing permit or anything to do them. You can just do them, and you can sign up to the BTO. And as a first step, I think if you're looking at getting into survey work, then
Yeah,
signing up for these two is a good thing to do.
yeah, definitely, I
Yeah.
agree.
And if you ever needed anybody to vouch for you, then I'd be happy to do that. But I think probably the BTO would be delighted to have you if you offered to take part in either of these surveys. Um, oh,
Oh. Look at my editing skills here, see?
uh-huh.
Fantastic.
This is- So what's to say? So there are some interesting things happening. So we start with Pine Marten because that's quite exciting.
That is quite
So
exciting.
we don't really know what's going to happen with Pine Marten this year. If we had our way, we'd carry on doing the DNA, and we will do that anyway. So regardless of what Forestry England want us to do, we'll carry on doing it. But we've got a couple of events happening this year. So first of all, we've got Johnny Burks coming down. So Johnny Burks is like the world authority on pine martens. He studies pine martens in Scotland. He's coming down to the New Forest for 2 days in May, and so we'll be going out with him, looking for scats, and hopefully we'll learn a lot from him. I've met Johnny a few times before, and he's a lovely guy. He's quite a character. Um, but yeah, he's a really nice chap. And so, but while he's down, we're going to organise an evening. He's offered to do a talk for us, so we're going to organise an evening, probably in Lyndhurst, where he does a talk about pine martens, and maybe I'll chip in about pine martens in the forest. But what we'll try to do is we'll make that an explorers
Yeah, we'll try and see.
event.
Everyone can come, yeah.
Yeah, so most people will have to. It'll be because we've got a hard hall. It'll probably cost 4 or 5 quid. But
But we'll try
explorers,
the explorers, we will try and organise it, where obviously it's free for you guys.
yeah, because it'd be an opportunity to meet Johnny as well. So Johnny, not only is he like an expert pine marten, but he's generally a mustelid expert, and it'd be good to meet somebody like him. But failing that, we could also do it on Zoom, possibly at the same time. Anyway, yeah. So the other thing with Pine Marten is we're doing a thing with we're working with Forestry England. They're looking at getting some Pine Marten tracker dogs in that will sniff out Pine Marten poo. So we're going to get some tracker dogs in for a week. We're hoping to go tracking Pine Marten scats because we struggle to find them. We find scats from time to time, but nowhere near as many as they find up in Scotland. But it's an issue not just with us. In the Forest of Dean and in Wales, they struggle to find scats as well. So we're going to get
And
these
it's
dogs.
finding them quick enough as well.
Yeah, that's it.
Before.
While they're fresh. So we're looking forward to that. Having a week at some point in May or June. Yeah. And so yeah, that's what's happening with Pine Marten, and then DNA as well. Will carry on.
Hawfinches, obviously you said about the tagging.
Yeah. So we're going to do the tagging this year. That's going to be the main focus. Dazzling will just carry on. as is, as will CES, BBS, and Webs. And do you want to talk about the fungi survey?
Well, yeah, well, it's going to be a funky survey.
Mhm.
Obviously, we do our fungi walks, and all of our fungi walks, we keep a record of all the fungi, and obviously we send it out to the people who attend our walks, but we also obviously keep it ourselves for records. Um, so we've now decided that one of our places we've always gone to, Iworth, is we're going to start the fungi survey there,
Yeah.
and hopefully start seeing a trend of because we noticed this year with fungi, it's been all about the small things, where last year it was all about the big things.
Yeah.
So this is now what's piqued our interest of why.
And this sort of stuff just isn't recorded. So,
No,
you
it
know,
isn't recorded enough
no.
to understand.
And so it's the fungi recording is all about rare stuff and unusual stuff and
We
stuff
want to get
that's not been recorded before. There's not much goes into the common stuff and
like
trends in the common
the
stuff.
CEF, like you were saying, it's about all the quite the common birds
Yeah.
and the trend of the common birds. So we want to do the same sort of thing on the lines of the fungi, all the common fungi.
What prompted it to a degree was a question a while back. Somebody said, you know, well, with climate change, are some species of fungi going to be affected and be reduced? And kind of the answer is we don't really know
No,
because we don't monitor. There isn't a monitoring of, you know, of common everyday species of fungi. It's all just gut feeling and sort of anecdotal kind of stuff. And so,
and there's certain things rare just because you're not looking for.
yeah. And so,
When you've got an Amy who finds all the little things, is that little thing actually rare, or is it just people not looking for it?
and they're good biodiversity indicators.
Yeah, definitely.
It's been highlighted lately that wax caps are in particular, are really good indicators of a healthy
Yeah,
meadow type of environment. And we, at iWork, we've got a lot of wax caps. And so, of a lot of species, so maybe 7 or 8 species of wax cap. So it's, yeah, anyway, so
so yeah,
that's,
that's
that's good.
all wrong way.
Oh, one other thing,
Oh, oh,
just because Jamie's on the call.
not
Uh,
to put you on the spot, Jamie.
but another thing we do that we haven't really mentioned because it goes hand in hand with webs is monitoring of the
Vigorous, yeah.
yeah, so we monitor those deliveries. So it's been monitored since 2001, near enough monthly, and that's given us a
It's kind of
great data.
it's kind of Jamie's survey now, though, more than
Yeah,
us.
Jamie's doing it. I haven't personally looked at the Libra wrist. I don't think this year. Jamie's doing it pretty much every time, and it's you know in a perfect world we'd do it monthly, but in reality, um, we want to focus on at least the counts quarterly, especially at the key periods. So we make sure it's counted at the key periods, and so yeah, just a nod to Jamie. He's getting some good data on that.
Keep going on, mate. So obviously, thank you. Obviously, I know not everybody who's on our Wildlife Explorers is on the call, but hopefully, if you're not on live, then you can watch this afterwards. Hopefully, I've recorded it properly. Um,
Because votes will be counted, but not.
we're not verified,
Yeah.
and you may still be charged. Um, um, yeah, you are throwing me off now. So yeah, we just want to thank you guys because obviously, yeah, we can get the funding, we can put the stuff in, we can organise all the walks, but obviously without you guys, it's not going to happen. So as I said, here's a few more pics of. I'm sorry if there's any embarrassing ones. Kind of not sorry. Um, but yeah, as I said, we enjoy it, and obviously this is now comes to our next point. Let's talk about the wildlife explorers. Obviously, if you don't want to call out now, I know Max doesn't care about talking. But if nobody else wants to thingy, but you can either message me and Marcus separately or write it in the chat now or think about it and write it in the group, whatever. We just want to know, we want to know what you guys think about the wildlife explorers. Is there stuff you don't want to do that we're doing, or is there something you do want to do and we're not doing? Because as I said, we've set up this group for people like you, I don't, who, well, yeah,
For wildlife.
yeah, who have a passion for wildlife, who want to get out and do it and doesn't always get the opportunity or want to meet other people. And I know I don't want to name any names because I don't want to put anyone else on the spot, but I know there's another young lady who doesn't who's quite quiet and never really spoke, and now we can't get her to shut up. Um, but it's fantastic. So yeah, I just
Even if there's something that's not our expertise, the ecological world is a small one, and so I'm sure we'd know somebody that we could get in
yeah,
to do something. I mean, one thing I was thinking of doing, just because I want to do it really more than anything, is small mammal trapping. And so we'll have a go at small mammal trapping, maybe at the wildlife camp next year. We'll get some longworth traps and do some of that. That's it's good fun. But if there's anything else like that, then just say, and we'll look into it, see if we can do it.
we can't promise it, but
If we can't do it, then we'll find somebody who can to
yeah,
come in and do it. So yeah, yeah,
Thinking of another trap that would be really easy to do, and I'm wondering why we haven't already done it, which is the pitfall traps.
yes, yeah. You mentioned that at the last wildlife camp, I remember, and yeah, you're absolutely right. That's something we should do.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely, yeah, I agree.
yeah.
We've got the next dates for next year's wildlife camps as well, which I'll put on the group later.
I was also
So
just wondering, I know I go on about it quite a lot, but the age for the Wild New Forest, for the wildlife explorers,
we
could you make it
actually,
18?
this is what we've actually been discussing literally today, isn't it? Because we've
Yeah.
had a few emails about this today. We're either going to change the age or there's going to we're hoping to change the age as from 2025 to 18, but we're also looking at making a few people, I won't say any names yet because we haven't fully discussed it properly, because we've got mentors for the wildlife camp. We want to start having mentors for the wildlife explorers as well. So going along those lines. So yeah, it will either or it's going to be going up basically. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. We don't want anybody to be excluded just because of age. I mean,
Yeah,
maybe by the time you get to 40, we might have to have a chat about that. But,
yeah, yeah,
yeah, so don't worry about that. We'll work out a way. As long as you're still or anybody's getting value from it, then we
yeah,
want to encourage you to come. And so age is we've got to put an age limit in because that's just kind of what you've got to do, especially the lower bracket. Um, but yeah, I wouldn't worry about it too much.
so has anyone else
Well,
got
I was just
anything?
wondering. Oh, sorry.
No, carry on. Yeah,
I just wondered if it deterred people who are maybe, 17, 18. Because, like, if you're looking on the website.
yeah, but yeah,
That's a good point.
yeah, it's a good
Yeah,
point. Yeah. We have actually, as from the 1st of January, our whole new website's out. So yeah, that's definitely
yeah.
one to think about putting it on it. This is what we have been discussing
I think
today.
it will be on the new website.
Yeah,
So we're in a situation now because we're only a month from the new website being released. We're putting stuff on the new website, and it seems like a waste of time to update the old website.
yeah,
It's going to be
on the new one.
gone in a few weeks anyway. But yeah, but it's a good point. Yeah, so we'll
No,
take
definitely.
all that on board.
And then we also just wanted to obviously thank the old funding, but obviously as from 2025. Oh, it's mad feeling it, 2025. Um, Obviously, I know a lot of you already know, but we are getting half of our funding for the wildlife camp and for wildlife explorers from obviously ourselves, but Nature Trek as well. Obviously, Marcus does a couple of tours with Nature Trek twice.
Yeah, two,
You,
3 times a year.
yeah, you're doing it twice next year, aren't you?
Or two in the spring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously they've agreed to fund us. There is somebody else in the pipeline, but we can't say that until we're 100% know, can we? That's just in the pipeline at the moment. But obviously, we are going to definitely have enough funding for next year for the camp and for the explorers.
The exciting thing about Nature Track is that they said if we can do a good job next year and promote them, that's the thing. We're not very good at promoting stuff, but we need to get better at that. And they said if they're happy with the way it works out next year, then they'll potentially fund it indefinitely,
Yeah,
which is quite good. But then that almost might also give opportunities for young explorer club group members to do stuff with Nature Trek as well. So Nature Trek do lots of exciting stuff, and yeah, they currently don't do anything with youngsters, but they
And
could.
they're looking, yeah, they're looking
Yeah.
to do stuff for youngsters. So
So
hopefully,
yeah,
mm,
overseas travel, overseas guiding, and guiding across the UK as well. Maybe going as like a shadow work experience type thing. So yeah, it could potentially be good, but we'll see.
there is obviously just before we go as well. There is one other bit of news which I'm hoping if people that aren't on this group and don't end up watching this, if people could pass on this message as well, it'd be great.
Yeah,
Like the bio
yeah. So last night I attended. I'm on the what do you call it?
biodiversity.
The New Forest Biodiversity Forum working group panel thing. Anyway, the New Forest Biodiversity have a certain amount of money that they put aside for projects that take place in the forest, funding projects in the New Forest. Now, they haven't had that many takers this year, and so they've got a pocket of money that potentially is available. And so I raised a question to them last night in the meeting and said, well, we've got a whole load of young people that are going to be the next generation of people doing important field work in the New Forest. But some of you guys will be needing gear and stuff. And long story cut short, is that they'd be open to applications from young wildlife enthusiasts who need specific equipment to do what they want to do. And so if you've got a particular passion for any aspect of wildlife and you're finding your lack of equipment
As a
is
question,
holding you back,
yeah,
then please get in touch and we'll see if we can raise the funds to support that so that you can
yeah.
get the gear that you need. Whether it's anything from something simple like binoculars to something specific like I don't know, a longworth trap or I don't know, anything right to the extreme end of I don't know, thermal technology or whatever. Let us know.
It's going
Yeah.
to help you in any way whatsoever.
Yes. Yeah. And so we've got some quite good influence with them, and so
They're willing to help.
yeah. So let's get that message out there amongst the group, and if anybody's got anything, then it's best to contact us privately, separately to this. But just send us a WhatsApp, an email, or
Yeah,
whatever, and we'll take it from there. But we'll talk about it at the next club meeting as well.
yeah.
But we wanted to get the word out there as soon as possible.
So, yeah, I
Yeah.
think that was, oh, yeah, hello.
Right. So that's probably enough waffle for one night. Isn't it? Nearly an hour. So,
I know, we waffled for an hour.
so before we go, is there any? Oh, sorry, I keep on getting told. I don't even know if it's right for getting told because I've got to lean across and I keep on hitting out. I'm trying to move across a bit.
Well, yeah, an
Um,
hour later.
yeah. If anybody's got any questions, then just shout.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything in
But
that.
but as always, you can always send us a private message anyway, or WhatsApp or whatever.
But thank you everyone for joining us. Really appreciate everyone that took the time. And obviously, I'm actually gonna press buttons. I'm going to